Welcome to Crime Theory. In today's video, we're diving into a case that feels like it's straight out of a screenplay. It all starts with a chilling discovery in a canal, but what unravels is a story of a dark family secret, one buried deep behind a life of glamour and public perception.
You know, this story really has all the elements of a crime thriller, doesn't it? We have a young woman found dead under the most brutal circumstances. Then you have her family, seemingly heartbroken, pointing the police in every direction but the right one. The real story, well, that required investigators to look past everything that seemed obvious to uncover a truly shocking truth.
All right, let's set the scene. The date is March 26, 2019. We're in the Durg district of Chhattisgarh, India. A group of young boys are just heading out for a swim, something they probably do all the time in the local Gangrel irrigation canal. But this day was different. They stumbled upon something horrifying, a discovery that would trigger one of the most complex murder investigations the region had seen.
Now, the killer clearly went to great lengths here. The body was bound, hands and legs tied right to her neck, and weighed down with a heavy stone. The intention was for her to never be found. But they made a crucial mistake. They left behind two very specific clues: tattoos. On one hand, the name Yadav, and on the other, a really distinctive flower petal. Little did the killer know, these two small ink marks would be the very threads that would unravel their entire plan. Okay, so the police have a body, but at first they have no idea who she is. No one in the local village recognizes her. So what do? Well, they turned to the modern playbook: social media. They started circulating photos of the victim, and crucially, her unique tattoos. You know, it really felt like a long shot, but believe it or not, it worked. It paid off big time, leading them straight to her identity and to her family.
And just like that, the victim had a name: Anchul Yadav. But as police started to dig into who she was, they realized she wasn't just anyone. That flower petal tattoo, it led them right to her Facebook profile, which painted this incredible picture of a glamorous, almost celebrity-like lifestyle.
And this is where things get really complicated. It's like we're looking at two completely different people. On one side, you have the public Anchul, a successful model living it up in a luxury apartment with a high-profile social life. But then, there's this other side, a much darker past. She'd been accused in a fraud case and even arrested back in 2014 for allegedly blackmailing a forest officer, supposedly with secret videos she'd recorded. A total Jekyll and Hyde situation.
And you know, this secret life wasn't just something she kept from the public. It had devastating consequences for her own family. Her past actions, especially that whole blackmail scandal in 2014, were said to have hit her father so hard that his health just plummeted. He passed away shortly after. We're talking about deep, long-standing family turmoil here.
So with this really complex backstory, the police had a whole list of potential suspects, right? But their investigation at first was completely guided by one person: Anchul's mother, Ma Yadav. And she gave them a very, very specific story about the night her daughter disappeared.
So here's the story the mother tells police. It's March 25th, Anchul gets home around 9 p.m. Later that night, her phone rings. It's some unknown man. The mother says she warned Anchul not to go, but she wouldn't listen. She just hopped on the back of this man's motorcycle and said she'd be back in about half an hour. See how the story works? It points the finger squarely away from the family and towards some mysterious stranger.
So, naturally, the police run with this. They build a list of suspects based on the mom's story and Anchul's history. You've got the guy from the fraud case, you got that forest officer from the blackmail incident. They even looked into the possibility of some obsessed fan from social media. I mean, all of these leads seem totally plausible, but as it turns out, they were all just dead ends.
And nothing. Every single one of those leads just dried up. After all that questioning, every suspect was cleared. Can you imagine the frustration? The investigation started with all these promising avenues, and suddenly, boom, they hit a total brick wall.
Hitting a dead end like that forces you to rethink everything. And that's exactly what the investigators did. They decided to go back to square one and re-examine the one thing they had just accepted as truth: the family's story. This time, they decided to verify it using technology. And let me tell you, what they found would blow this case wide open. So it all boiled down to this one simple question: who was the guy who called Anchul that night? And who was the man on the motorcycle? The entire case was balancing on this. Finding the answer would either prove the mother's story was true or expose it as a complete and utter lie. And here it is, the first big bombshell. The police get her phone records, and around the time she supposedly got that call and left,
There's nothing. No incoming calls, zero. The entire story her mother told them, it never happened. The very foundation of their story was a lie.
And to really put that into perspective for you, Anchul was constantly on her phone. We're talking about a woman who could get over 800 calls in a single day. So for her phone to be dead silent right at that crucial moment, that wasn't just suspicious, that was practically impossible. This was the final nail in the coffin for their story. The police were out there, scouring CCTV footage, looking for a motorcycle, but they found something else, something that changed everything. They found footage of her own brother, Sidharth, driving her car late that night. And get this, he was driving with the headlights off. I mean, what reason could you possibly have for doing that other than trying not to be seen? So now the police had them. They had the phone records that proved the call was a lie, and they had CCTV footage putting the brother at the center of it all. They went back and confronted Sidharth and his mother, and under that pressure, the whole story just crumbled. Sidharth confessed. He admitted he was the one who killed his sister. And when he confessed, the motive that came out was this toxic cocktail of shame and resentment. He was deeply ashamed of her modern lifestyle and was apparently taunted constantly by people in their village about it. Then there was the money. He was bitter that their father had left all the family property to Anchul, completely cutting him out. But the final straw? He claimed it was an insult. During their last big fight, she apparently compared him to her dog. That was the trigger.
And here's where it gets truly bone-chilling. This wasn't a snap decision. Sidharth admitted his crime was completely premeditated. He'd been planning it for a week. And how did he plan it? You're not going to believe this. He started binge-watching the true crime show Crime Patrol to get ideas, to figure out how to commit the murder, and more importantly, how to get away with it.
The murder itself was just brutal. The fight escalated and he stabbed her and then strangled her. And his mother, instead of calling for help, she became his accomplice. She actually helped him clean up the blood and prepare the body for disposal. Then he drove her to a hospital, all to create a phony alibi for them both.
With the confession and the whole cover-up now exposed, the case moved to its final stage, the courtroom. And here, all that digital and forensic evidence the police had gathered was about to become absolutely overwhelming.
And look, this case was not just built on his confession. The prosecution laid out a mountain of evidence. They had his confession, of course, but they also had the incriminating CCTV footage, the phone records that proved the family's lie, Anchul's blood and Sidharth's fingerprints in the car, and the final clincher, they even recovered her stolen jewelry, which they found hidden in his home. It was an open and shut case. So, in 2022, nearly 3 years after the murder, the verdict came down. Sidharth Yadav was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of his sister. His mother, Ma Yadav, received a 3-year sentence for her role in helping to conceal the crime. And this brings us to a final, really compelling thought. Sidharth studied television shows to learn how to commit murder and avoid capture. But in all his meticulous planning, he overlooked the simple, silent witnesses of our modern world. The digital footprints we all leave in our call records and the ever-present eyes of CCTV cameras. He planned for the drama, but he completely forgot about the data.